Whenever the usual pseudo-realists imply that an emergency situation required a firm hand, in other words, they know that AIDS and COVID were instigated by government forces, but it was necessary mandate. This is a message that comes through various instigations, primarily the inability to question the evidence in a rational and informed way, as though by some supernatural process it will only make matters worse. We heard this sort of legerdemain for many decades in what was known as the Cold War. The Cold War was simply maniacs on both sides of the Berlin Wall wasting our money on Armageddon machines that can never be used, that are criminally insane. And of course, there was always some questioning of that, but it turned out that the people who were elevated to be allowed to question that and make a living questioning it, meaning people who were in Thomas Merton centers, um, various peace movement groups, were putting themselves in place for a master plan where they agreed to shake hands on these necessary urgent calls. So you have Noam Chomsky and Trump shaking hands under the table. And I think in order to see Camilla Valieva's symbolic gesture taking fourth place at the Beijing 2022 Olympics on the eve of the Snowden um, parameter in Ukraine that ghoulishly engulfed everybody from their home computers. You have to see it in a variety of contexts that are authentic. One of them is to question whether or not it's legitimate to use the Olympics for a symbolic statement. One side of the coin points out that Hitler raised the Nazi standard above the UN flag in Munich. They said that from then on, any political symbolic statement that the UN is used for will be punished. Other people who said it depends on the symbolic act. Surely you don't think helping fugitive slaves was a violation of moral principles just because there was a fugitive slave law. And they claim that raising the Black Power fists at the Olympics was in fact the opposite of raising the Olympic standard. It remedied Hitler's insult to Jesse Owens. So one of the questions has to be, is it appropriate to allow a symbolic statement that may have reprehensible connotations to go unquestioned? And the unquestioning element again redounds. I think you have to see what Valieva did in the context of Beat Cateno's film Brother, which came out as Obama took power, which ends with a black man and a suitcase full of money, which was bequeathed him by a Japanese yakuza, which means gangster. They had cleaned up the house with Kennedy assassinations and thrown the briefcase full of money to Obama's driver's seat. And this is a sort of tinkering with political symbolism that comes out when you ignore the meaning of these issues and gestures. Then the telltale clip that I put in Alias Little Boy, for example, shows that I was attacked and tortured as part of the system that attacked the Kennedys. And it was a pornographic corporation making snuff films. Obviously, nobody's going to come out of the closet who thinks that's the right way to behave in civilization, to make use children for pornography and turn them into snuff films. Doesn't even gel with the seedier elements of the Catholic Church, although their altar boy, Greg Carl, makes quite a show of support for the idea. I don't think Clint Eastwood would publicly brag that he supports something like that. I'd like to hear his opinion. In any event, the bottom line is that the telltale clip shows the way they played a shell game. A shell game of UW dialectical, which is like the ball in the hat game that they play at Mariners Stadium. Follow the legerdemain, maybe you'll win. It was an attempt by the drama club to shift the fact that a white child had been tortured, not just that it was me, that it was symbolic, and not just that I was badly injured and should have been properly supported. Was also that by making me look, by pigeonholing me, by marking us as, you know, with the brand of the X on the horse is being sent to the slaughterhouse. By denying what had happened, they were underwriting a child trafficking snuff film operation. And to smush that, to smother that fact out, they neglected to teach anything rational in the public schools about ecology, and they kept siphoning our money into insane military operations. Meanwhile, beaming down from Star Trek for George Takei, the Dalai Lama, Peter Gabriel, Richard Attenborough, Queen Elizabeth, and Stephen King were lookalikes of Lenin who were women, androgyny. You see, the scapegoat failed to metamorphose into nirvana and continued to live as a homeboy, engaging in talented relations with girls. So the mythological fact has been rendered carnate. While they were really doing, what they were really doing was setting up a drama club syndicate of CRT to demonstrate an arc of justice, an arc of colors. The telltale clip shows that Ringo Starr was behind Two Virgins' Pussy Ball, that the Japanese designed it as a war game to get revenge on a little boy associated with America's victory at sea, to humiliate the United States, to turn the tables on World War II, and to, by doing so, to advocate for the brother with his gangster briefcase full of stolen dough. That's what they did. And you can see it very clearly in the telltale clip, which is part of the Reagan era monstrosity of advocating for John Lennon and Adolf Hitler and calling them Casper, or the Walrus, or Lazarus, the various names they use for the invisible arm of the fourth dimension, which is what Believer was alluding to. Now, What Reagan did rings like a godfather of holy mission for the peasant army that he summoned to look at the Pussy Ball ledger as unredemptive debt to the pimp. Its origins were Henry Bergson and Blas Sanders, who saw cinema as having biological metaphors. I'll show you how they think of it. They used the name Ryback to get Ryback, which pronounced like lie back. They said people were lying that abortion isn't murder. They used Holocaust metaphors for abortion is murder. And there's a Holocaust of fetuses. So this is they actually said instead of allowing this to happen, what we'll do is summon the Don't Look in the Basement B grade horror film crowd to go out and commit horrors on the street for entertainment. So what you see is what you get. They filmed a fictional version of the Kennedy assassination, which was encrypted in Reagan's films, in John Voight's films, and a number of other films in advance of killing him. Do you believe that's not murder too? And these, they call themselves the Angry Fathers. They're wise beards. They believe very holy has happened. And they, encrypt holy war on the doomsday bombs, which they call, who knows, the devil or the trident and so on. So it's a question of whether or not we're going to accept that we're human beings and try to undo the damage that we're doing to each other by failure to remedy intelligently to our situation. If it were possible to reach nirvana from here, some people would and some people wouldn't. But I don't think that it's a contribution to understanding our human condition for the Dalai Lama's decoratory to beam down with Melvin Belly from Star Trek to parade John Lennon's androgynous anima aspect as a plastic surgery job on whoever the dancer of the day may be, and the pyrogenics of transsexualism. Now, if I'm wrong about that, you can bring in Aladdin's lamp and rub it here, and we'll watch Genie emerge from the smoke. And I hope it's not the nuclear genie. We have to be careful of these brilliants, which is why I call upon administrators to have oversight over the entertainment system. Russia has the same problem. The leapfrog oligarchs created a film industry there known as Chernuka. Nothing could be further from the truth than the idea that these war machines are out to establish the domain of mom and dad. Mom and dad are important in all societies on earth, but Hollywood war films and war games are not advocacy for healthy, functioning families. It's important to understand that. It's important not to be pulled down the albatross of entertainment's justifications for what they do. It's sad to see what's been happening.